Finding warblers in the fall can be really challenging. First of all, they're super quick, and second of all, most of them aren't singing right now. But there is one saving grace, and that is that they still talk to each other. Birders call these vocalizations chip notes. These chip notes tend to be short and high pitched. The thing is that most people tend to ignore these sounds, either because they think they'll just never be able to figure them out and like it's kind of challenging to know which chip note belongs to which birds, they just ignore them, or because they are high frequency, they actually can be technically hard for some people to hear, particularly those folks with high frequency hearing loss. I do this myself. I'm one of those people who tends to focus on the more vociferous birds. So when I hear a song, that's what my mind is drawn toward, versus the chip notes tend to fall in the background. But today we're going to bring those chip notes to the light. I'm Kristi from Bird Mentor, where I help people connect more deeply with birds and nature. This is the Mindful Bird Sit. Let's go see what those warblers have to say. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. So good to see you. I have I always say this, I think, that I have a fun one planned for us. It's going to be more bird nerd focused, but of course, you never know what's going to happen. So yeah, we'll do the best that we can to listen to the highest frequency that you can hear, and I'll coach you along the way. So like I said, I know that some people, the high frequencies are challenging for you to hear, and that's okay. Like I'm just gonna coach you to go for the highest frequency that your ears can hear. In an attempt to not ignore them, to not just brush them aside, because even some of the chip notes, they're not all high frequency. Like the what's it called? The brown creeper can be very, very high frequency. It's like a kind of like a really, really high pitch call. But then there's other ones, for instance, like the cardinal. It's like a chip, not that's more like a junco, but it's like a chip. It's actually like a chip note that's not so high frequency, but more like a harsher sound. So there are some chip notes that are audible to people with high frequency hearing loss, and there's others that are challenging. Um, so just do your best today. Do your best to listen for the songs or sounds that I coach you to hear, and yeah, set yourself up in a position where you're able to listen. So if you're inside, you might want to open a window, and if you're outside, well, that's great. And we'll be ideally going for bird sounds, but if you have no bird sounds around you and you only can hear the sounds of the world, human-made world, that's okay too. We're just training our ears today. So let's get started. All right, so go ahead and take a nice deep breath in, and on your exhale, let it all out. Completely, fully exhale, pushing all the air out. Push, 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 and then allow that next breath just to fly gently into your body. Just naturally coming in, really effortlessly. And then again on your next exhale, allowing all the air to leave your body, fully pushing all the air out, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then the next inhale, just allow it to rush in, really with ease and effortlessly. Your body's going to naturally want to have air come into her body. So allow that to happen. And now you can fall back into a breath that is natural and rhythmic for you. And we'll just stay with our breath for just a moment here, just allowing yourself to get into a nice steady rhythm, feeling the breath as it comes into your body, and then noticing it as it goes out, that beautiful blessing that you're sending to the world with your breath. Good work. So now sending your awareness to start first with our body. So just noticing whatever sensations, just allow your body to soak them up, really just adoring the sensations on your skin right now. Maybe it's a breeze, maybe it's the sun, maybe it's the prickles of your hair, feeling chilly, whatever it might be. Just let yourself really get absorbed in those sensations on your skin right now. As if nothing else mattered, as if you were just being gently kissed on your skin right now by whatever sensation it is, and just really let yourself be fully present to those sensations. All right, nice work. So now we're going to send our attention to the rhythm of our heart at this moment. So noticing your own heart rate, your own heartbeat, if you can. Just do your best to quiet your mind in this moment. You can close your eyes if you want to. Allow yourself to sink into your own body's rhythm in this moment. Bringing all those senses together, your breath, the sensation on your skin, and your heartbeat, feeling all of them at one time. And as you do this now, we'll go ahead and open our eyes and allow your gaze to fall on something that's a real comfortable distance for you to see. And let yourself focus on one point off in the distance. And then allow your vision to slowly and softly expand. So as your vision is expanding in all directions, you're still looking at that one center point. And then just begin to notice what you start to perceive visually. Just noticing what your eyes are drawn to, if there's subtle movements or maybe more blatant movements, like a bird flying by. Good work. So just waiting while the garbage truck was driving by. They're still back there doing something, so we'll just move on with them regardless. So now you can choose to either keep your eyes closed or keep them open. Closed will be a little bit easier if you really truly want to focus in on the sounds that you're hearing in this moment. But keeping them open is completely fine as well. So whatever you're drawn to do today, and you can do half and half if you like as well. But now we're going to tune our attention to our ears. And I want you first to begin just by listening to all the sounds that are around you in this moment. We'll just allow our ears to be bathed in all the sounds without trying to pick any one particular one out, because we will do that in just a few moments. Good work. So now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of have our baseline sounds, but also we're going to look for a sound at the highest frequency range and the lowest frequency range. So we're going to begin with the lowest frequency, and that just means a sound that's like a lower sound, like a deeper sound. And so listen on your landscape for a sound. It could be bird, it could be something else, but just one that has like a deeper, lower pitch to it. And it's perfectly fine if your mind is going to that place of wondering, is it high? Is it low? I don't know. I've never wondered about this before. So that's fine. Let yourself just explore that for a moment or two. We'll just play with that pondering if that's happening for you. But allow yourself to search for that lower frequency or low pitch sound. Okay, great. And now we're going to search the landscape for any high pitch sounds or high frequency sounds. So whatever is your max, whatever is the highest frequency that you can hear right now. And now just notice if you can kind of put a pin in both of those sounds, whatever the highest frequency was and the lowest frequency, and just notice if you can find a sound that's somewhere in the middle of those two frequencies. All right, good work. So now we're going to give our attention to those high frequency sounds. So I want you to just tune your ears only to those sounds. And I want you to listen for pitch rather than a specific bird. So don't worry about identifying the bird right now by sound or by sight, even. If you want to, of course, you can. But just allow yourself to listen to pitch and just kind of call attention every time. And you can stay focused on your breath in between the different sounds or while you're waiting for a sound to occur. But as one occurs and you hear that high pitched sound, just really let yourself dive into that sound, become familiar with that sound. And then listen for another high pitched sound and keep letting your ears only tune in to those high frequency sounds. Good work. So if you start to hear bird song and it's calling your attention to it, of course, unless the bird song is a high pitched song, but if you start to hear bird song, you can treat it like you do the busy mind. So when you're working to quiet your busy mind, you just draw your attention to something else, like your breath or counting your breath. So in this instance, what we're going to do is draw our attention back to a high pitched sound. So if we're hearing a low pitched sound and that's drawing our attention away, just remember, nope, that's not what I'm going for right now. And bring your attention back to those high pitched sounds. If you're finding this easy to do, you can continue doing what you're doing. If it's really challenging to keep your mind that focused, you can take a breath for a moment and just allow your mind to wander, allow your mind to focus on the lower pitch sounds. And then in just a minute or so, we'll bring ourselves back to the high pitch sound. So I'll let you know when that time comes. In a sense, it's like a palate cleanser, kind of like a little bite of ginger when you're eating sushi. Okay, and now for the next couple of minutes, we'll stay in silence and do your best to attune to the high frequency sounds in your landscape. All right, good work, y'all. So take the next minute to offer a blessing or gratitude to those that you connected with this morning. All right. So thank you for coming, everybody, and anyone who wants to stay for our chat afterward, which is always wonderful and full of so much richness, you're welcome to. And anyone who needs to go, thank you for coming. So I'd love to hear from folks. How was this for you? What occurred to you? Yeah, Linda, right away, go for it.
This was really cool for me this morning. It's raining, so I'm kind of sitting inside. I had to come inside because it's kind of a cold rain. But I had a visit from the corvids this morning. So um, the low tones were a couple of magpies that were out here. I think they could see me through the window and they were wondering where their peanuts were. Um, and then there was the high notes, I think, was the Eastern Blue Jays. They came in too. There were two or three of them that were calling. And then, really exciting for me, a Stellar's Jay showed up, just one. And I heard the call, and that's why I say I wasn't sure if it was Eastern or the Stellar's Jay, but I'm pretty sure it was a Stellar's. And he sounded more like in the middle. It wasn't quite as high as the Eastern Blue Jays. They were kind of squawking, and then the corvids, I mean, the magpies were lower. But anyway, it was just really cool to hear all three of them, out there at the same time. I think because it's raining and they're looking for their peanuts, so which they aren't out there yet. But anyway, I'll have to get them out there. So it was very cool.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I love that because it's similar to what was occurring for me, which is realizing that like I don't know if I've ever considered like are you a high pitch sound or a low pitch sound, and relative to this one over here, is it higher or lower? And maybe even in one bird it has high pitch elements
Oh,
and low pitch elements. And
yeah,
like the jay, I love that you brought up the blue jay and how lucky you are to live in a place where you have both the blue jay and the Stellar's jay. Like that's so cool.
I know.
And yeah,
Yeah.
just to think that you got to hear all the ranges that existed
Hmm.
within the Corvid family. It's all just one family right there, Magpie and the two Jays. Like how cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, Linda.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for
I
sharing.
probably wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't been doing this. So
Yeah,
glad I was doing it. Thank
yeah,
you.
me too. Sweet. Thanks for sharing.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, who else wants to share? Has a story from this morning. Yeah, Anne, please.
No, no, sir. It was full here. I can't. If the day gets better, I just gonna have to like weep because you can see this weather and the birds have been loud. But I think Linda's comment about if I hadn't have been doing this, I wouldn't have noticed. Monday's list is always bigger than there are hours in a day. And if I hadn't have done this, I wouldn't have noticed. And so then I can take this with me this afternoon or wherever I go just to make sure I'm listening. So thank you.
Yes. Oh, that's so touching and beautiful, Anne. And I'm just curious because I know for myself, it can be easy to, as soon as this is done, get on with our task list. So what will you do in particular? Like what helps you to remember this moment throughout your day? Like maybe when you get busy or something's happening that's stressful or whatever it might be. Like what do you think could bring you back to this moment?
I think stopping just when, you step outside to take the garbage out. Oh, you just have to remember to, I don't know how I do this, but I think sometimes you just have to stop, like you say, stop the thoughts in your head. Your head is moving and you have to then go back and take the breath or listen to the birds.
Mm.
But this is, yeah, maybe I'll pay attention to that. How am I going to do this more during the day, or to be conscious of that while you're washing the dishes, to also be listening to birds or whatever, or being mindful. It's not easy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And sometimes just mentioning it, just like starting to put that little trigger in our minds of like, what will I do? It's like if all of you can ask yourselves that for today, like, what will I do to bring myself, into a heightened awareness or into a more expanded awareness throughout the day? And it can just be small triggers, like you said, like going to the garbage or going to the store or, whatever. Like maybe there's sometimes like thresholds are always great. Like before you, as you walk out of a door, do be like the cat, and just take a moment and pause before you just like open the door and go to the car. It's like open the door and just like wait, just like 30 seconds, just 30 seconds, take stock of what's happening. And sometimes that can be enough. So yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up the idea of bringing it back throughout the day, just so we can all sort of put it into our consciousness that that's something that we desire, if it is something that you desire. So thank you,
I
Anne.
I read a book called The Sacred Kitchen once, and they talked about how preparing food and this kind of stuff was important, and that when you entered the kitchen, you entered the sacred kitchen, and to stop and say, what am I here for? Food to my body, water to my soul, that kind of stuff. But to pause when you cross that threshold. So that's, yeah, I think that we have to set up markers. Was it you that said when you got out of your car to stop, take a
Yeah.
breath and look around, notice your surroundings, and just be aware?
Right. That's another good marker for us. It is a threshold, like the door of the car, open the
Right.
car before you jump into the go to the store or wherever you're going. It's like open the door and just look around for a minute. And it's kind of fun when you start to do that too, because all of a sudden, if you're like looking around, everyone else is like, "What's she looking at?" And they start looking around too. Like, "What is it?" You might get to talk to a cool stranger. Like, "What are you looking at?" Yeah. Oh, thanks, Anne. This is great. It's so great. Yeah. Well, yeah, go ahead, Julia, please.
On this same note, I had a little story. I think it was Saturday. I had time. I was working in my yard, and I have my head down in a shrub or something like that, and I heard the hum of the bee. The bees were really out. It was one nice sunny day, and I didn't expect them to be. This was a Turk's cap, and I didn't expect them to be in that shaped blossom. That's more like a hummingbird, where they have to go down deep to get the nectar. But I'm not going to argue with them. But because of this, I noticed the humming. I thought, ah, I'm going to listen today. And that lasted maybe 30 seconds, but but at least I was conscious, for that moment. But it was because of this. I thought, oh, I'm going to listen today. And so I did listen more, for a while, thanks to this.
Oh, it's so beautiful, it's 30 seconds there, 30 seconds somewhere else, and maybe a minute somewhere else. And then, it'll start to become something that we do more often. And especially if we bring our consciousness to it, right? Just again, even this conversation of like what different people are doing will help probably trigger some of our friends here, to do that themselves. So thanks for that, Julia. I love that you did that with the bee. Yeah, I appreciate that story. Great. Who else wants to share? And hi, Gabrielle, by the way. Good to have you here, as always. Any other stories from this morning? Well, while we're waiting for a story to percolate, maybe I can share. Um, it reminded me of like the actual moment when I thought of this idea, and that is that there's a place I've started to go to early in the morning that I know that the warblers show up at. There's a couple places on the landscape here in this development where it's really great for warblers in the morning. It's like the sun is just right, the trees are just right, everything's just right, and so I was out at this one spot when I discovered like, oh, this is a good warbler spot. But I would go almost every day, and and so what I do when I first get there, at least I used to when I first got there, was because it's this beautiful pond. It's a natural pond, and there's lots of dead snags, and this is a place where the wood storks roost, and there's roseate spoonbills, and there's all sorts of herons and egrets and everything else. And so like my ears tune to them. It tunes to those sounds and the kingfisher that flies by and the phoebe that's calling and you know. And I remember this one day I saw a warbler and it flew up into the tree, and as it got my attention and I'm watching it, I could hear its little chip note. And I was like, but then it flew away and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know who that was. Like I could have made the identification if I had longer to look at it. And then I was like backtracking in my mind. I'm like, I'd been hearing that chip note for a while. I was just ignoring it because it was like kind of back in my memory where I was like, yeah, as I'm watching the kingfisher and all these other birds, you know, which are just as beautiful and worth watching, of course. But like, I noticed that that chip note had been calling in the shrubs right next to me, but I had been ignoring it because it was a chip note. It's like my mind just canceled those out. And so, yeah, and so I just now I don't. I go there and that's the thing I go for. It's like I listen for the chip notes, you know. I'm just like, where's the chip note? That's what I'm going for, you know? Yeah. Beautiful. Anyone else have a story from this morning they want to share? Anything about the high frequency, low frequencies? Okay. Well, let's see if there's any announcements I have for you all in the coming weeks. The holidays will be coming, and I'll be attentive to those dates and make sure we let you guys know about any upcoming, if we're going to take a pause or whatever for a particular holiday. And anyone, also, I just thought this is a great time of year to start diving into some deeper practice with birding. So if anyone's interested in joining us for the advanced skills course, which is our master's course, we have Della, Susie, Joy is a part of that course, Linda. We'd love to have you there. So if you're interested in that, you can stay at the end of this call and I can share a little bit more about the master's course with you. And I'll just, every once in a while, I'll share that with folks and let people know about it, because it is just one of the most beautiful, richest connections I feel like I have with all of you who are in the class, and just a beautiful way to connect more deeply with the birds. And also it has a systematic approach to learning about birds, so you're not just out there sort of flailing around like, what do I do next? And how do I do this? So anyway, if you're interested in that, let me know and we can stay after to chat about it. And otherwise, I hope you all have a really beautiful week. And thank you for the reminder, everybody, to keep this practice alive throughout our day. So have a beautiful rest of your day. All right. See ya.
Thank
Bye.
you.